1996, the people of Varginha, Brazil, witnessed a UFO event that would change their lives forever.
Só que ele planava, ia perdendo lentamente a altitude e ia caminhando.
Call it another Roswell, if you will. It is a crashed vehicle that had beings on board.
Mas que eles não poderiam admitir a verdade, a população ia entrar em colapso.
Nada temos a esconder.
Finally, the facts will be revealed.
The Varginha case is considered the most well-kept secret in the military circles of Brazil.
My objective here is to put some clarity on what took place in Varginha, Brazil, January 1996.
Dois seres extraterrestres foram capturados, depois, posteriormente, foram levados para o hospital.
The witnesses are some of the most compelling testimony I've ever heard.
Meu nome é Carlos de Souza.
Meu nome é Cátia Xavier.
Meu nome é Liliane Silva.
Meu nome é Valquíria Silva.
Em 1996, eu vi uma criatura estranha ali.
Action!
On the 21st, the creature was transferred to Humanitas Hospital. Witnesses on that night and the next few days watched firefighters, army trucks, and police cars in both hospitals. On the 22nd, at about 5 p.m., the body of that creature, dead at this point, is placed in a wooden box. A group of trusted doctors studied the creature. One of them got closer with tweezers. He pulled out what was considered to be the tongue. It was black and slim, and when released retracted back to its original place. The tiny coffin was placed on the back of a military truck, and the convoy drove non-stop towards the Sergeant Army School. At 4 a.m. on the 23rd, a convoy leaves the Sergeant Army School towards Campinas. According to statements of the military involved in this mission, creatures were taken to the University of Campinas, Unicamp. There, scientists were asked to leave their laboratory working stations. Workers and students saw the military trucks, and also a big unusual number of American and Brazilian military officers, and surprisingly NASA agents walking around the campus for days. At some point in the next few days, creatures were flown to the United States. Now, back to Chiriz. He had told his father, Naldo Chiriz, that the rumors around the city about strange creatures being captured were serious. That perforation under the left arm started to become infected. In a couple of days he had to have surgery to try to remove the infectious area, which unfortunately didn't help at all. The very next day he was hospitalized. While there he admitted to his sister that he was punctured by one of those creatures. He kept getting worse and worse, and then transferred to another hospital, taken to the ICU, and still had no response to any antibiotics. Dr. Cesario Furtado, the physician who treated him, states he never saw any other patient die like that throughout his entire career. It just looked like all his body immunity was turned off. He also adds that his HIV test was negative. Dr. Cesario also states that the soldier confessed to him, while hospitalized, how he was hurt during the capture of a very strange animal. Chiriz died on February 15, 1996, at just 23 years old. His family was denied having a funeral, and it took them over a year to have the death certificate. When they finally got the document, it was written that he died of pulmonary septic thromboembolism, incipient myocarditis, and acute liver congestion resulting from septicemia. And the most unusual finding, his blood had 8% of unknown toxic substances. The coroner that performed the autopsy, Dr. João Giannini, says that he never saw a furuncle cause septicemia and result in death. For more, go to Mr. Now. What did the military say? The military police investigation concluded that the creature that the girls saw was a mentally disabled man, Luiz Antonio da Paula, known in the city as Mudinho, and that he was disfigured by a hailstorm. Well, the hailstorm happened 3 whole hours after the sighting of a red-eyed, naked, hairless, oily creature. The girls, until this day, absolutely deny that it was him. They had known that man their entire lives. Their families got together, and they saw him constantly in front of their father's bar. Plus, they saw the creature at a 5 meters or 16.5 feet of distance, at 3 p.m., with a clear view. And more recently a new witness, Rubeo Ladeira, came out and said that on Saturdays Mudinho was at the gymnasium, that he was there every Saturday, and that even if Mudinho wanted to go there where the girls were, there were military blockages right on that path, stopping anyone to get close to any sighting place. About Chiriz, the official statement said that he died of a very strong hospital infection. But it doesn't explain the unidentified toxic substances on his body, or why the family couldn't get a proper funeral for him. To explain the large number of trucks from the Army in Virginia, from January 20th to the 22nd. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The Sergeant Army School informed that the vehicles were sent to the car workshop Atomico Comercial y Importadora for wheel balance and steering alignment. However, this company stated that it does not work on weekends. About the great movement of soldiers at the regional hospital, they said it was due to the exhumation of the body of a young soldier. But that was a lie, because this happened on the 30th. Plus, no one could explain why the Army was following an exhumation that closely. For the large movement of soldiers at the Humanitas Hospital, they said it was because of the arrival of new equipment for heart transplants. But the Army doesn't have that function. Hold on, this keeps going. To explain the large movement of military personnel at Campinas University, they said that they were following the studies on the bones of the dead in the Araguaia gorilla. But these bones were already there for 4 years. The NASA agents in Unicamp were there to look for future astronauts. Strangely, they didn't decide to go look for those on the top military engineering and pilot schools and universities all over Brazil. And until this day, the only astronaut Brazil ever had was chosen after a very hard public contest in 1998. And now, I present to you the very best excuse. During a documentary footage for Discovery Channel, Major Calza said, "There were a couple of dwarfs in Virginia Hospital, the lady was pregnant, and she had a baby, so the Army caught this creature, put it in the truck and took it to the hospital where people said to have found a couple of aliens. But... creature? And since when does the Army give rides to babies? Or how come no one in the city saw this very distinctive couple?" Well, according to all the government organs, this was nothing but a sequence of very unusual coincidences. For more, go to Mr. Anilla on YouTube. Link in the bio.
Tal vez la historia más sorprendente de encuentros cercanos con seres desconocidos sucedió en marzo de 1996 en el estado de Minas Gerais, específicamente en la ciudad de Varginha, cuando más de un centenar de personas, incluyendo a miembros de la milicia brasileña, observaron a dos seres de características anómalas recorriendo la ciudad. Todo comenzó, según reportes de investigadores brasileños, el 13 de enero, cuando el Mando de la Defensa Aérea de los Estados Unidos se puso en contacto con el Centro Integrado de la Defensa Aérea y el Control de la Navegación Aérea de Brasil por la sorprendente cantidad de elementos voladores en el sistema de vigilancia de Minas Gerais, obligando a la Defensa Aérea brasileña a poner en alerta todas sus bases por si algún acontecimiento llegara a suceder. Días después, el 20 de enero de 1996, sucedió este contacto, lo que generó la movilización policíaca y militar de la zona. A la 1 de la mañana, un objeto se estrelló en las cercanías de Varginha. Horas más tarde, específicamente a las 10 de la mañana con 30 minutos de ese sábado 20 de enero, militares de la agrupación de bomberos de la 13ª compañía capturaron a uno de estos seres con una red, sin que éste pusiera alguna resistencia. Ademar Guevaer, investigador brasileño, rectificó estos hechos.
Y esta criatura fue colocada en una caja arriba del camión que fue para la Universidad de Campinas, que es en el estado de São Paulo, donde había un departamento de medicina forense.
El segundo tripulante fue visto horas más tarde por Elian y Barquiria da Silva, así como por Katia Xavier. Esto mientras regresaban a sus casas. Esta historia continuará en el siguiente reporte.
Hello, welcome. Today we're gonna talk about the biggest UFO incident in Brazil. We have a whole city of witnesses. Citizens calling the police and fire department to capture very weird animals. The Brazilian military blocking roads. An American Air Force aircraft landing nearby. Aliens chased, hunted, and shot down. A military policeman dying days after capturing a creature with his bare hands. Animals strangely dying at the zoo. Men in black trying to buy witnesses. And the military denying it all. Thanks to a group of 7 brave ufologists that went there to investigate, now we know at least 20% of what happened back then. So, let's go to it. On January 20th, 1996, around 1 a.m., on a farm located 10 kilometers or 6 miles from Varginha, Aurelina de Freitas noticed the cattle running scared on the field. She went to look out the window and saw a big silver object flying over the farm, about the size of a bus, shaped like a submarine, without windows, releasing white smoke from the side, where it looked to be damaged, but producing no sound. She called her husband Eurico de Freitas, and the both of them kept watching that strange object flying low, 5 meters or 16.5 feet from the ground, for about 40 minutes. In the next week, UFOs kept being reported among the citizens and ufologists. On the morning of the 20th, in Sao Paulo, the traffic controller, Marcos Fires, is told to accept AC-17 aircraft from the United States Air Force, which later flew to Campinas, and requests 2 SH-1D Brazilian Air Force helicopters to Varginha. Also in the morning of the 20th, at 10:30 a.m., around the area of Jardim Andir and Santana neighborhood, firefighters get a call to rescue this strange monkey that was scaring the residents, and kids were even throwing rocks at it. Witnesses report having seen the firefighters going inside the woods. Soon after that, a truck from the Sergeant Army School showed up and parked. Soldiers ran inside the woods. Later 2 rifle shots were heard. The soldiers left the woods, carrying big black bags, one still and one with something moving inside. They got inside the truck and left in a hurry. Later that day, around 3 p.m., Claudia Xavier, 22, and the sisters Liliane Silva, 16, and Valkyria Silva, 14, were coming back home walking after working on a house and decided to take a shortcut through an empty lot. That's when they saw a creature, crouching, next to a wall, 7 meters or 23 feet away in broad daylight. It was short, had brown oily skin with veins showing through, skinny long arms, a big head with 3 protuberances on the forehead, big red eyes without eyelids, cornea or iris, 2 tiny holes for the nose, and a slot for the mouth, no hair and no clothes. Liliane screamed, and the creature turned its head slowly toward them. Claudia reported having telepathic communication with it. She said she felt the creature was suffering, and asking for help. The girls ran away.
In July 1947, a flying object crashed close to Roswell, New Mexico. Initially, the Army claimed to have had a flying disc in their possession, but 24 hours later, they modified their story, claiming that it was actually an experimental high-altitude weather balloon being utilized by the covert U.S. military Air Force instead. Yet, was it? According to reports from the 1970s and 1980s, the military was engaged in collecting alien spacecraft and conducting autopsies on the bodies of aliens found at the crash site. So, what are they really hiding?